Welcome back into the channel. Today we are continuing our division positional tier list video. If you don't get it, this is the NFC South. We're going to rank all four teams in the following positions, starting with quarterback. You'll follow along. We are, of course, starting with Bake Show, Baker Mayfield, a guy that I think is a top 10 quarterback in all of football, a guy that I think is a low-key MVP candidate for this year, a Pro Bowl season last year. He's on his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. Kind of says something about you as a quarterback if your offensive coordinator continuously is getting picked and hired for jobs. But hey, that's just my opinion on the matter. Baker, really solid arm strength, mobile, and as somebody put in my comment section under the quarterback video, he's just simply got that dog in him. Quarterback 2 is where things get a little interesting. I'm personally going to lean Bryce Young. I think that I saw enough out of Bryce Young last year in the entire second half of the season to earn him this second place spot. He really started living up to that #1 pick potential, and with some questionable assets at weapon too. Coker, Thielen, Leggett was kind of coming into his own. I thought Bryce Young did a pretty solid job there. Michael Penix will be the third spot here. Just a small sample size, 3 games as a starter. I really liked what I saw, but not enough to put him over Bryce Young, and certainly not in the conversation with a Pro Bowler in Baker Mayfield. But I think by the end of this year, Michael Penix could certainly move up to #2 with the weapons that they have in Atlanta and what we saw from him as a pocket passer. And then, of course, in last, that'll be the New Orleans Saints. Whether it's Tyler Shuck or, somebody else, Spencer Rattler, that's the starter for this team. I think New Orleans kind of knows in their heart of hearts that they don't have their quarterback of the future. Shuck played 7 years of college ball. He's probably not your guy. You are more so trying to position yourself to potentially get an Arch Manning, and that's fine. But for the purposes of this video, they're undoubtedly fourth. Next, we move into running back rooms, and that'll, of course, be the Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, a top 3 running back room in all of football. Bijan Robinson, especially once Michael Penix got under center for that offense, really started to come into his own as there was a passing game threat. Holes started to open up for Bijan Robinson. He showed you what he could do as a receiver, and he quickly showed that he is a top 5 running back in football. Pairing him with Tyler Algier, I think, is a really, really good combo. Where we start to have question marks for me personally is 2 and 3 on this list in terms of just running back rooms. Please remember, this is rooms, not just the running back 1 on the team overall. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. I think they're much more of a good pairing together than the team that I'll have in the third. Bucky Irving really emerged into his own in the second half of last year, proving to be a dominant runner for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, something that I never thought Rachaad White quite was, but Rachaad White is a very effective pass catcher out of the backfield, which makes them a very solid tandem. And then in third here, I have the Panthers now with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. I think those are both starting level running backs in that running back room to create a really nice combination there. I don't think it's as seamless a fit as Bucky and Rachaad White, but Chuba Hubbard was really, really special last year. And I think Rico Dowdle in that RB2 role will really be able to succeed. And then that puts the Saints again in fourth. I think Alvin Kamara, if we were just ranking RB1s, would be probably second on this list at this point in time, but as a room, I have to go Tampa and Carolina over New Orleans. I still love Kamara. I still think he has game, even as a veteran player at this point. What he did, not only last year, but just throughout his career as a receiving weapon for New Orleans has been really, really special. But ultimately, the room feels like it's just Alvin Kamara at this point. We get to the wide receiver rooms, and of course, I got to go Tampa. They may have one of the best wide receiver rooms in all of football. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, first-round pick Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan. That is a real stud level wide receiver room. That is 4 guys that could be starters on just about any team. They're going to have to sub some of those guys in and out, just leaving talent on the bench at this point in time. Mike Evans, obviously Mr. Consistent, 1,000 yards. Chris Godwin, the pace that he was on to open last year. Emeka Egbuka, to me, was a top 3 wide receiver in the class, just the best pure route runner. And Jalen McMillan, when Godwin went down with injury and this team needed a wide receiver too last year, really stepped up. The future of wide receivers in Tampa Bay is certainly very, very safe at this point in time. The second place team here, I'm going to go with Atlanta. I like Drake London. I think he's a fringe top 10 to 15 wide receiver in football. Darnell Mooney has that dog in him, super underrated. I think it's a fine wide receiver room. I don't think it's anything special, but I don't think any team here has anything super special. I'm going to put the Saints next. I like Chris Olave not as much as I like Drake London, and I like Brandon Cooks. Not and Rashid Shaheed's nice. I still lean Atlanta just because I like the top end talent of Drake London and Darnell Mooney, but I guess in terms of depth, you'd have a case if you wanted to go New Orleans. And then Carolina's in last year. The truth of the matter is we don't know how good Tedderell McMillan is. We don't know how good Jimmy Horn is. We don't really know how good Jalen Coker is. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to this Carolina room. I think it's possible, certainly by the end of the year, that we look at Tedderell McMillan as the best wide receiver in the entire NFC South, but I just can't bank on that to be the case right now. He doesn't feel that can't miss to me to elevate the entire room above these other guys. Obviously, Olave's got the concussion issues that we got to worry about, but you know, Tampa at 1 feels like a sure thing. If you wanted to flip-flop New Orleans and Atlanta, I understand that. And too many question marks in Carolina for me. They got to be 4. We got some not great tight end rooms here. They're all kind of in the same tier from me. I'm going to put New Orleans at number 1 if the thing will let me grab them. Perfect. Taysom Hill's likely out for a lot of this year, but gadget player. I like Jawan Johnson. I like Foster Moreau. That's 3 guys in the tight end room that are pretty solid. When healthy, Taysom Hill, the ultimate gadget player. I think no doubt about it. That moves New Orleans to number 1 when he's healthy. I guess I'll go the Falcons too, because I still believe in Kyle Pitts' high-end talent, but I don't believe in him at the level that I once did. That's for sure. I don't believe in him as the former top 10 overall pick, still that ceiling, but I still think he could be a quality tight end. We'll go Cade Otton and that Buccaneers crew here. And then we'll go Tommy Tremble and Jatavion Sanders. Again, similar to the receiving room, just feels like more of a ceiling play with Carolina. Jatavion Sanders, it should be interesting to see how he develops, and it's not a tall task to get to the top of this tight end room. I didn't really realize this, but the tight ends in the NFC South are just really not that impressive. If you wanted to kind of reorder this any which way, I don't think I'd argue with you too much. I'm going to take New Orleans number 1 just because they have 3 guys that I like, but it's really up to your discretion. Offensive lines, I'm going to take Tampa number 1, left tackle Tristan Wirfs, you know, somewhere in your top 3 for left tackles in football, I think is absolutely where he needs to be. I really like what they're doing with the right side of the line, and I'm excited to see how center Graham Barton comes along at this point in time. Next, we got the Atlanta Falcons. They did lose their center, but I still like Jake Matthews. Lindstrom is still one of the best guards in all of football. Atlanta's had some pretty good traditional offensive lines over the last few years, so I still think they'll be able to perform in that manner. I'm going to put New Orleans next. I really like the tackle combination that they now have of Kelvin Banks and Talise Fuaga. I think that's a really good building ground for them going forward. They still have McCoy at center, I believe. So New Orleans offensive line, I actually think could compete with Atlanta for second best in this division. Truthfully, Saints fans, I think it's a really good core. Obviously I don't believe in the quarterback of the future being on the roster, but I believe the foundation's being built there. And then I got the Panthers last year. Some people really like their guard core. I don't know. I'm still just a little shaky when it comes to the Panthers offensive line. Sorry for a couple last place in a row, Panthers fans. When it comes to the defense, I'm going to put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in first once again. Levante David is still just astonishingly one of the best players in football. I still really like their defensive line. Antoine Winfield's really solid. A little shaky at corner, and shaky is not even the right word. They really don't have a ton of holes. They're good, not great in a lot of spots, but good, not great is good enough in this division to be the best defense. New Orleans, though, pretty close on their tail. New Orleans made some really good moves to that defense. They did lose a Paulson Adebo, but I really like their defensive line right now with Scorton, Chase Young, Cam Jordan. It's a solid group. You still have a Demario Davis. You bring in a Willie Gay. You bring in a Justin Reed. Like, this is a really good New Orleans Saints defense. I'm going to go Carolina next. JC Horn, one of the best young corners in football. Derek Brown back healthy will be huge for this defense. And then I got Atlanta here. A lot of question marks. AJ Terrell, how good can he be? The team moving on from a Justin Simmons. You draft 2 edge rushers in Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. How good are they going to be? Similar to kind of the way that I talked about the Carolina's receiving core. I just got too many questions when it comes to Atlanta's defense. And then head coaches. Listen, Todd Bowles has been winning and been winning this division for years now. I think it's hard to dispute. He's gone through multiple offensive coordinators and still continued winning this division. His defense still continues to be the best defense in this division. And flatly put, Tampa wins too much for any other head coach to be the best in this division. Things are get interesting here. I'm going to go Dave Canales. I believe in him. We saw him turn that offense around in Carolina in year one. We saw Bryce Young start to show glimpses of being the #1 overall draft pick under Dave Canales. That's what they drafted this guy. They brought this guy in to do. They drafted Bryce Young to be the #1 talent. They brought in Dave Canales to get that out of him. He's proving to once again being a quarterback whisperer. Now a draft of getting his guy talent. I'm really interested to see how that develops. Raheem Morris, I thought, was solid. Once they got Penix in there, I think that the team performed at the level that they wanted to. Hopefully now he has the defensive talent that he wants. And Kellen Moore, just unproven. I think Kellen Moore could be a good head coach, but he's the only rookie head coach in this division, so that's kind of why I put him last here. But these are my NFC South divisional rankings. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit that button. I appreciate you guys' support. I'll catch you next time. Peace.